Cardio day. I've been missing doing cardio, and yeah, I wanted to tell you guys a story, an interesting story. I don't know why I thought about it, but wanted to share it anyway. Back when I was in school in Gurukul, I was made in charge. I was put in charge of the Gurukul shop, or the store that was there. Still there, there's a different person in charge now, of course. But I was taking care of it, and a friend of mine who was taking care of it before me, he's from China, he's Chinese, native Chinese. But yeah, it's a good friend of mine. He was taking care. He showed me everything, how it was happening, and then he bounced to China because I think he was getting married or something. Anyway, he went to China, and in China, he was doing some business. He was importing things from India and bringing them to China, selling it there for a higher price. He was making good money. And we were in touch, and he messaged me one day, and he was like, Tamal, do you know where we can get some emeralds, some stones from? I was like, what stones? He was like, emeralds. I was like, I can find out. I had no idea what good emeralds are, where to get them from, stuff like that. And he was like, I told him that. I was like, bro, I don't know anything. He was like, look, man, I don't know anyone else who I can trust and who I can do business with in India, and you can figure that out. And so, I was enthusiastic. I was up for anything. And so I called my dad, because I knew my dad had worked a little bit in the diamond business, and he got some certifications in GIA or some other, institutions which work on diamonds, stones, precious stones, semi-precious stones, and etc. So I called him up, and he was like, well, I don't have any contacts. There's some guys in Jaipur that do it, some guys in UP that do it, in a different place in UP. And so in Vrindavan, there's some people, He was like, yeah, sure. Send me some contacts. Those guys, they weren't really interested. Then somehow, over a few other days, I got in contact with a teacher of mine, and he was not really teaching me at that point, but I asked him if he knew anything about emeralds and jewelry, and he was like, yeah, I do actually. I was like, wow, cool, because I was asking around and nobody knew anything. He sent me a contact of this dude in Jaipur who had a huge shop, and started messaging that dude, and yeah, just talking. He was sending me pictures. I was getting some pictures from him. Something started happening. So as it started happening, I would send pictures. I would send the prices to my friend in China, and I would send him the picture, then I would send him the price, would mark up the price, of course, a whole bunch. Anyway, and then, we went through a whole bunch of sapphires, we went through a whole bunch of emeralds, and then finally he found this one emerald which he liked, which was like 8 carats. It was an emerald cut. No, it wasn't an emerald cut, it was a sphere cut. It was like an oval shape like this, not a circle, not a perfect sphere, but I don't know. I forgot the name of that cut. It wasn't emerald. And yeah, so he liked that one. So I contacted that person. I was like, all right, how are we gonna get it from him? Is he gonna ship it? Is he gonna, I've never dealt with stones. I don't know how it works. I don't know anything about it. And he said, yeah, we'll figure it out. And then he went offline for a while, and I was actually quite interested in this whole thing, and I started researching. I went through websites. I started looking at free courses and YouTube and everything I could learn and figure out about emeralds and diamonds, and I was just super excited. This was going on for like 10 days, maybe 2 weeks in total. And I told the teachers that that were in charge of me what's happening. I asked them. They were suspicious about it first, and they were like, well, you don't know anything about this. I was like, well, do you guys know? They were like, no. I was like, do you want this money? They were like, yeah. So I was like, so let me do it. And so that was a little experience. And anyway, so I started learning a whole bunch of stuff. But my idea for the whole thing was, I'm gonna go to Jaipur, pick up that stone, see it for myself, check it with that little bit of knowledge that I have, but at least, I'll be able to feel it. And then when he comes, I'll be able to give it to him, or I'll fly to where he is and do that. So I asked my teachers if I can, from that money that I was making, do that, and they were like, no, can't do it. I was like, that's kind of weird. And then so I called him up. I told him, so I asked him, can you pay for me? He was like, no, no need. I was like, okay, sure, you work it out. And so he ended up actually coming with a group a month later of Chinese. He took them around India, and then he stopped in Delhi, and we made arrangements for that transfer to be made to that person, the jeweler. Well, stones dealer. He wasn't really a jeweler. He was dealing in stones, and so the money was wired to him. He sent his person to Delhi to deliver it, and then we sent him the rest of the amount. So I was managing this whole thing. I think I was like 18, maybe 17, online. I had my phone, my first smartphone, some shitty old Samsung Galaxy, I think 4 or 3. Anyway, I was managing this whole thing online, and I felt like I was on top of the world. I was like, wow, I'm selling a stone. I'm gonna be a stone dealer, I'm gonna be a jeweler. I had huge dreams and huge hopes. And yeah, I was super excited. I sent them some saffron, I sent them some oils. Anyway, I loaded them up with stuff. I remember at the end of it all, I made like $1,000 in profit, because the stone itself was like $4,000 US, which is like, I don't know, at that point, don't remember, I think it was like 300,000 rupees, 3 lakh rupees. And then we had a whole bunch of saffron, like 80 grams of saffron, which was a lot for me, and some oils and some incense and some other things that he wanted to give out and sell to his group of tourists, Chinese. So I sent him all that, made all those arrangements, and then he got the stone. He was happy. He sent all the money, he wired all the money to us later on. And I gave it all to the school. All that was happening, and then 2 things which were very interesting happened. So the first thing that happened was a teacher who was teaching us in Gurukul, the main teacher, he wasn't there during this whole thing, and he came later on, and I told him this whole story, and he was like, oh, he got on my case. He actually blasted me. He was like, why didn't you tell me? I'm dealing in these stones, and you most probably got cheated, and how could you do that, and etc., etc. And I was like, well, I don't know. You never told me that. How was I supposed to know that you were dealing stones, and you have so much experience and whatnot? Anyway, I was a bit pissed at him. Because he was really heavy on me, and it's not like I stole the money. It's not like I asked everybody. I told them what was happening, but he just wasn't there. So he gave me the sauce. So I was upset at that. And the second thing that happened was later. So this happened, a few days after we just sold it. And then 3 months later, I got an SMS from this friend of mine from China, and he sent me a picture. He sent me a picture of a ring, big ring. It was like this big. And it was, done well. And there was a green emerald inside, which was the similar shape of the one that we sold, but it was fully, you could see that it was absolutely cracked inside and had so many, it wasn't clear, it wasn't clean. It was a really, bad looking ring. And so I messaged him, I was like, what's this about? And he was like, this is the stone that you sold me. And I was like, no way. He was like, yeah, 100%. So he told me the whole story. He told me that he sold it to to this lady that was looking to get the stone, and she wanted to make a ring from it. And so she did that, and then the ring, because what actually ended up happening was we found out, because neither of us had any experience. So we found out is that when they make the ring, they polish the stone, they clean it, they polish it on different things. And if it's been put in oil, soaked in oil, which many emeralds are, then, you know, when you take it out of the oil, it looks good. It looks darker. It looks like it has no cavities and, you know, cracks or anything else. But as soon as you start polishing it, then you see all the cracks. As soon as you dry it from the oil, then it shows its true nature and color. And yeah, so after a whole discussion, he was like, no, give me money back. I was like, this wasn't my money, man. I don't have any of it. It's all probably gone. And, you know, it was given to the school. It was used for something. I was like, I don't know. He's like, go talk to the jeweler. I was like, I called him. He was like, I mean, yeah, it was oil treated. He told me straight. I was like, why didn't you tell us that before? He's like, well, you didn't ask. I was like, so why was it so expensive? He was like, that's the price. Anyway, the guy cheated us. We got cheated. We cheated that person. We sold him an oiled emerald, which was worth probably at most $1,000. We sold it, I think at the end, the person bought it for like $5,000, which was really sad. But yeah, that was my experience in selling stones. After that, I got a little upset and I was like, oh. But I understood that either I need to study more or I need to get into a business where I know things, or, you know, some lessons, again, must be learned. And yeah, that's the one that I learned from this experience. But it was fun. I actually did a lot of research and I figured out that, you know, emeralds are oiled because they have a lot of cracks, because they usually use TNT to get them, because they're very difficult. They're mined with dynamite, so they explode the place, you know, the cave or the shaft where the emeralds are usually. They use explosive, and then because of the explosive, the stones shatter and crack inside. Because otherwise the soil and everything else, the stones around the emerald are hard. And so in Colombia and in Zambia, where most of the emeralds come from, this is how they do it. So, you know, I learned a lot of things, and that was a cool experience. So I'm grateful for that. But yeah, unfortunately we cheated and got cheated.